All right, let's keep going. So now we're going to add a new item. So let's say you're like the manager at the grocery store and you get new items for sale. And so you are responsible for making certain that that list reflects what the person can buy. Makes sense? All right, so we're going to do, so far we've done gets, all right, where we get information. Remember, it's from the perspective of the client, the person using our API. They're basically saying, hey, I'd like to get information, like to get all the items or get an item by its ID. Now this is different. A post is where the client is sending us information. So we are expecting information from the client. And we'll go into how all that works, but that's the difference. Okay, so post means hey, they're sending us information. So we're gonna do app.post. We're gonna do slash items. Now, the cool thing about a post is that you don't have to have any sort of like query parameter, like URI parameters or anything like that. You can just do like slash items because we're going to be posting an item. All right, sweet. So we're going to do the same thing, async request, which is a request, response, which is a response. It returns a promise of a response. All right, let's do it. So I'm going to be getting some information, but this is going to be complex information. The ID was pretty simple. It's just a number. But for an item, remember we have those interfaces, right? So let's go look at our interface. We have interface item. It needs an ID, a name, a cost, and a quantity. It's going to need like lots of different things. I can't just use an ID. I want to have other properties too. We got that covered. There's a property called body of the request, and I'll show you what that looks like when we go to Postman. But the body of the request is going to hold all of our information. So let's go over to Postman, and we're going to show you how to form the request first, and then I'm going to show you how we consume it, because that'll make a little more sense. All right, so I also found dark mode for Postman, which is great. So here is how we're going to make our request. So we have localhost 3000 items, but instead of get, we're going to do post. Okay, because we are sending information to them, to the API. So the person who's using our API is sending us information. Remember, it's from their perspective, so they are posting information. You're going to go head over to body. Okay, you can pick a bunch of these other ones. We're going to do raw today. Hit raw, and then click over here and do JSON. It might be set to text initially, but we don't want text. We want JSON. All right, the body is a like a package of information you're sending to the API. Because remember, it's more than one thing. We have to basically send it as a JSON object. So notice I have my curly brackets, and then I have, it looks like just like an object, right? So it's got a name and a value. So here's the key, ID, and the value is 6. The key is name, the value is pecans. Okay, so we're going to give this ID of 5, actually. All right, so go ahead and type this in. Okay, we got ID is 5, name is pecans, quantity is 5, price is $25. Okay, so as you can see, this is what we're going to be sending to the API. So when the user, winds up and pitches, okay, this is the ball. This is what's going to be like what they're throwing at us. So we need to be able to catch this information and like pick out what we need. All right, so I think you got the idea. So let's switch back over to Visual Studio. All right, there's a very easy way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the body of the request. Okay, so the thing we just did was the body. So all we have to do, and then we also have to call a function. So if we go back to item repo, we create a function to create an item. We have this create item function. It takes an item, and pushes it into the array of items. Okay, if you need to review that, just go back and look at the function, make sure you understand what it's doing. Okay, well, let's use it. So I'm gonna do item repo dot create item. Now here's the mind bendy part. It's like, okay, I need to put an item in here. All right, cool. Let's do an object. Now the interface will tell us what needs to go in here. All right, so as an object, it has a name. Okay, well, it has an ID. Where's the ID coming from? It's coming from the body of the request. So we're going to do request, that object request, dot body, dot ID. They're going to do the same thing with the name, request, dot body, dot name. And quantity, request, dot body, dot quantity. We're also going to do, I believe it was, off the top of my head, I'm forgetting. Let's go back to the, here we go. ID name cost quantity. Cost dot body dot cost. Okie dokie. Typically I like to cast things so like the ID is a number, and so is quantity and cost. And we'll make certain that those get transferred and translated into numbers properly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and have the repo create an item, but I still need to send a response back to the person who's using my API. They are awaiting a response from me. They need to know what happened. So I'm going to return a response, a status of 201. Okay, 201 means that, hey, you tried to create something and it worked. Okay, you tried to create something and it went off without a hitch. I created it. And I'm also going to send them a little message saying item created. Right, everything I have autosave on, so everything should be good. Let's switch over to Postman and see if we can create an item. So let's go over what's happening first. This request object, as you can see, is pretty handy. It has a body. Okay, so what I do is I go to the item repo, I call the create item function, and I supply the values. So the ID of this item is going to be the request body.id. Then I do the same thing for name, quantity, and cost. Request.body.name, request.body.quantity, etc., etc. Once it's all done, I'm going to send them a 201 saying, hey, cool, the item was created. All right, let's switch back over to Postman. All right, and take a look. All right, so I've got my ID, my name and quantity, post, items. Let's give it a try. Cool, I got a 201. And I got this thing that says item created. But the real test is, are we going to find an item with an ID of 5 called pecans when I do a get? So let's switch this over to get and do send. Bam, there it is. So if you're the manager of this grocery store and you now want to sell pecans, you can use the API to add that item to the list. And we can do this multiple times. So here's post. Let's go back to post. Notice how the URL didn't change. Notice how this part, this is the URL, this does not change. But the HTTP verb is making it act differently based on which verb I'm giving it. That's how these verbs work. So if I do get, it's going to give me all the items. But if I do post, it's expecting the body, okay, and it's going to do something with it. So let's do ID number 6. And I don't know, let's do potato chips. Okay, let's say there's 15 of them and they're $3. Okay, I don't know. So randomly saying that. I'm gonna hit send. Cool, item created. Awesome. I'm gonna go back to my get. And there are my potato chips. All right, so this way the person who is responsible for maintaining the inventory, etc., at least like what items are offered in the grocery store, can add new items as they want to do. So now we've got the C in CRUD. So the create, read, update, delete. We've got the C, and now we had the R, and now we have the C. So now what's left to do is the U and the D, the update and the delete, which we will cover.